shoot the grill. Yeah, I can't kill, so don't bring me nothing that's got chlorophyll. Yeah.
Welcome to another edition of Shoot to Grill, the podcast where grilling meets entertainment, MEATS, because we're extremely clever. My name's Jason Bailey. My producer, Nate Hansen. Yeah, I know you like that. My producer, Nate Hansen, should be on this, but he's not because he's vacationing in Mexico. So I hijacked his Zoom account. This is what happens on the podcast is we have a great guest like today with Kevin Martin of Candlebox. And we have our chef, Jimmy Bones, down in Miami, in the parking lot of his apartment complex. He's going to cook up some great food. Now, Kevin, unfortunately, back in the day when this podcast started, we'd all be together and we'd be able to taste the food. That's not going to be the case. So you're just going to have to smell through your screen. I hope you're cool with that, all right?
Scratch and sniff.
It's that smell-o-vision from Willy Wonka.
Exactly.
So, Jimmy Bones, what are you going to be making on today's podcast? What do you got?
So today we're going to be grilling this, hold on just a second, this lovely rack of lamb.
You're not a vegetarian, are you, Kevin?
No, that's my favorite. That's my favorite right there.
Lamb.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm taking a shot in the dark here. It's either gonna go over well or not at all.
But it really doesn't matter because he's not eating it. You know,
Right.
he might get mad and get grossed out if he was like a Kevin Nealon. And like we've had guests on here, Kevin, you know, that when we were doing it and they would eat it, they would show up and be like, I don't eat meat.
Yeah.
And like, shit, well, maybe we need to find a bean burger for you. I got no idea what to do.
Yeah. Hey, so you wrap the ends with the aluminum foil, yeah?
Yeah. So it's French, which just means that all the meat and fat has been removed from half of the rib, and then you wrap it in foil. That way, it doesn't char. The bone doesn't char. You still get like a nice white bone. I've rubbed it with some Everglades seasoning, some fresh chopped thyme and garlic, and it's about at room temperature. We're gonna go on the grill at 500 on the hot side, and then after we sear it off, so we'll do fat side down at 500 and sear it, flip it, maybe do 3 to 5 more minutes on the other side. Then we'll move it to the cold side of the grill. The grill will probably drop to about 425, 450, and then we'll roast it on the cold side. I'm going to add some apple chips to the charcoal also, just to give it a little smoky flavor. Then we're going to serve it with some Boursin cheese mashed potatoes and some mint glazed carrots.
So now after this, Kevin, you're going to have to either go cook some food at your house or you're going to have to go find some food somewhere because you're going to be hungry.
I know. Well, you know, I do lamb all the time, but I do them actually as lollipops rather than the whole branch. So, and I haven't heard of Everglade seasoning. So, what is that?
So it's a local thing down here in Florida. It's very popular.
Beautiful.
Was it like an all season kind of thing?
Yeah, it's kind of like an all-season kind of thing, and it's super popular down here. Yeah. Obviously, it originated in the Everglades, but I think you can get it everywhere now. I'm pretty sure they have it in Georgia also.
Chopped up boa constrictor, chopped up gator,
all that good stuff.
I lost my virginity in the Everglades, you know, at 15.
Nice. That's a great place to lose it.
I know. You might have a little bit of my virginity in that season.
Fantastic.
Do you
That's gonna be delicious.
Do you do a lot of cooking, Kevin? A lot of grilling?
I do. Well, I was like with the lollipops, the lamb chops. I use just an olive oil, salt and pepper, rosemary, fresh garlic, and I just kind of marinate it for, anywhere between 6 to 7 hours, sometimes overnight, depending. But I do that. I do a pork chop, which is a spice. It's like an essence of Emerald Lagasse spice. So it's a lot of cayenne, paprika, salt, pepper, thyme, and oregano, and garlic pepper or garlic salt and onion salt. And then I also do, that's like with a caramel glaze on it. So caramel onion glaze on top of it. And then I do,
look at you, man. Damn. I had no idea. God.
I love cooking. I do all sorts of stuff. I do curries. I do a sesame chicken which is really, really good. My wife's favorite. But I love cooking. I also I bake bread. I started baking bread this year, so
Kevin,
that sort of thing.
Baker / griller. So when your wife asks you to cook dinner, or your friends come over the house, we talk about this on the podcast a lot, like, because I'm a big grill guy, obviously doing this podcast, and Jimmy Bones he's the best. There's something satisfying. It's like when I don't know, putting out a great song or a great album and you get great reviews and great feedback. When people come over and request something that you cook, and they leave and they can't stop talking about it to the point they request it and they want to come back. Do you have that in your repertoire?
I do. I do. Well, the sesame chicken, which is my wife's favorite. And then I do this, it's a Middle Eastern curry, that all our friends are like, "Hey, are you making the curry for dinner?" It's funny. I'm not a massive griller. I do a few things on the grill, like the lamb. I'll do chicken cutlets, which that's just like a fast sear that like a lemon chicken sort of thing, which I like to do. But I'm more of a sauteer myself. My wife is the grill master. She does, like last night we had a friend over and we did 2 Kobe, New York steaks that, just get them just the perfect color pink in the middle and trim a lot of the fat off the side of it, because that's really, it doesn't, if you're not searing it, you can't chew through that. So you got to kind of cut that off. But my wife does an amazing steak but yeah, I mean, we have those moments where people love to come over and we have a lot of friends that do come over and eat at our house. We have a very open repertoire. My wife also does ridiculous short ribs. So, but yeah, I have a couple things in my repertoire that people want me to cook, and I'm happy to do it.
Have you dipped into that Wagyu before? I mean, you've traveled all over the world. I'm sure, there was a stop in Japan at some point where somebody offered you up some Wagyu, right?
Well, I like Wagyu, but Kobe's my favorite. Kobe's the actually Japanese, that's really, because you can get American Wagyu. They have Wagyu cow here.
Yeah.
Kobe's like, if you find Kobe here, it's usually about $99 a pound, and you can't buy less than 2 pounds. And that's ridiculous steak, man. It's so tender and it's like gentle when it touches your tongue, like butter. It's just fantastic.
We had a guest. I don't know if you're familiar with Mark Henry from the WWE. He's a big grill guy. He's a big guy, but he told me that he and a buddy every year they go halvesies on a cow in Texas, and this cow is raised to perfection. And at the end of the year, poor cow, but so like, or whenever it's ready, or however the case may be, just to get like the perfect meat. And when I got into this grill community, it's interesting. Like, I find it very therapeutic. I got a kitchen set up outside of my house. I cook on a Kamado Joe. I also have a propane grill. Like, I'm going to saute vegetables. Love smoking a lot of meats out there. You put a brisket out there at the beginning of the day. You get to track it with your Flame Boss on your phone. And it's just very therapeutic. I know a lot of guys out on the road. I mean, I know not so much now because of COVID and whatnot, but, even going back in the day, festivals and stuff, a lot of the fellows would grill out there. Anybody in particular that was a better cook than the rest?
Well, we did it. We did it a lot. We used to carry around the charcoal grill with us, which was just an absolute blast to do. I know Zach Myers from Shinedown is a fantastic rib maker. That guy can make ribs like nobody's business. Of course, Dave Grohl, always the best grill master out there. But there's a ton, man. I don't recall any band that really back in like the 90s at the festivals that was doing that. I think it all started to kick up in the 2000s when bands realized that they could actually travel with a nice smoker or a nice charcoal grill. Or, you generally don't want to travel with a gas grill because it can be a little bit dangerous to propane.
Who's got the propane tank? Who brought it?
They're getting some propane. But I mean, it's like, I just remember the festivals that you loved the most were the ones where the actual catering was doing the grilling for you. You looked forward to that. Rocklahoma has that. I know that Carolina Rebellion has it. We did a couple festivals this past summer and they all had beautiful meats, which was, you know, when you got a catering service that knows how to grill some you know, great steak or whatever, or if you can come across like the festivals in Texas where you're always going to get that Tex-Mex, there's nothing like it, man.
Yeah. Is it like a high school or a middle school lunchroom, you know, backstage at the concert when everybody's eating, you're like, oh, I'm not going to go sit next to those Guns N' Roses guys. I'm going to go sit next to the Alice in Chains guys. Is it one of those things?
It is. It is. It's very, the crew guys are, you know, they all know one another because they've all worked together. So whether they're working with Alice in Chains or Guns N' Roses, they've worked with, you know, one another on some other band. But the band guys can be a little weird. Sean Kinney is a very, very private musician. You rarely will see him in catering. But Jerry Cantrell will always be in there. Him and William will always be in there, and you can always sit down with them and have a catch up. Of course, Zach's always in there hanging out. If we're doing shows with Shinedown, a lot of the older cats, the Leonard Skinner guys, will come and sit down, and you know, if they're a fan of your band and you know they know you know who they are, they'll come and say hi. But it can be a little bit cliquey. You know, there are some bands out there that just, you know, think they're a little bit bigger than they might be. But you know, then there's of course, you know, you got the Hailstorm crew, which is just absolutely those kids in that band are just the sweetest, kindest musicians out there, and you know, are always happy to sit down and have a conversation. So, you know, with us old guys who've been around a little bit longer, they want to know one thing or two about what we've done in the past. But that's beautiful.
You're naming off a lot of these Atlantic Indigoot guys, you know, like Hailstorm and, you know, and Shinedown and whatnot. That's interesting. Like, what's the relationship, you know, if you were to break it down from a fan's perspective and say Candlebox? I mean, obviously you guys are still making music. We're going to talk about the new track, the new album here in a little bit, but you know, the 90s, you look at Candlebox, a 90s band, right? You take Shinedown, they're 2000s, early two. I launched them, by the way, at JRR in Orlando. So, you know, you take Shinedown, and then Hailstorm is a 2010s band, you know, post after. So they see you in the Rockstar lunchroom at the festival. Zach's already there, right? He's like, I know Kevin because I'm older. And then, you know, Hailstorm walks in and they're like, I want to join him because I know Zach and I got questions for Kevin. Is that how that works?
A lot of times, yeah. I mean, you know, there's a great camaraderie with the younger bands, with us older guys that have been around a long time, because they, you know, I used to go see Hailstorm here in LA when they were doing the residency at the Viper when they were trying to get signed. So I've been seeing them since day one, and God, you know, what a fantastic band. She's a star, you know, and that band supports everything she does. But, you know, it really is about that. It's about saying hi and catching up. How's the family? What are you guys doing? Where are you living? Have, you know, new records? Great. How, you know, how's the response been? And then it's you know, did you guys play that venue last week in, you know, Detroit or whatever? It's kind of where you been? What are you doing? Sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, it can be other times not fun in there, man. Like, you know, there'll be somebody that just, you know, doesn't have the right energy to be in the catering, and you try to avoid that, you know, as much as you can.
This
guy's like a bad chef.
Yeah, it's like, this guy's being a dick. Let's get him out of catering. Can we get security over? Somebody put some Visine.
And you want to know who it is? It's usually Manson.
Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
Dude, that guy, let me tell you, Kevin, that dude is weird as shit. So, Hard Rock Orlando, I'm interviewing him down in that bottom dressing room area.
Yeah.
And I walk in and it's spotless and it smells nice. And it's like extremely clean, like the cleanest I'd ever seen it before. And his handler says, all right, I need you to sit here. And it's like dark minus 2 lit candles. And there's nobody in the room. So the handler takes me into this room, which I've been in a million times. I think I've been in there with you a couple times. And so I sit down and he closes the door and leaves me there. It was like I was getting ready for a massage. It was the weirdest feeling. And then out of nowhere, this like tall, skinny, giant top hat wearing dude goes, hello, I'm Marilyn Manson. And I'm like, recording with an old school like DAT player or something. I had to go back up to the Lennon room to play it over the radio. And he was, you know, I think that era of music, you know, a lot of those guys, especially the nu metal run, they had a touch of themselves. You know what I mean? You know, there was just, that was the vibe during that era of music. Would you agree?
I would agree. And, you know, listen, Manson has every right to be. A guy's, you know, he's a musical genius, you know, in so many ways. He runs that kind of similar circuit, you know, as a Nine Inch Nails, as a Trent Reznor, where they believe so much in what they're creating that they became the foundation which so many other bands, you know, aspire to be. When I met Manson, he was working at the Edge in Orlando, which is, you know, we played there in '94 with the Flaming Lips. That's when I first met Brian. I met him as Brian, not, you know, Manson, of course.
Wait a minute, he was working there?
Yeah, he was. I think he was a like monitor engineer or something. But he used to work at the Edge there in Orlando.
Wow, had no idea. Okay.
Yeah. So did the Matchbox 20 kid.
Rob Thomas.
Rob Thomas worked there as well. I met him there as well. But I think a lot of those musicians that come out of Orlando, they all had a job there, because that was the venue to work at. Very similar to like Seattle with the Rock Candy. Every single musician worked at the Rock Candy in some way, shape, or form. Right. So I found him to be super, super interesting. And a couple years later, when I was at the VMA Awards in '94, I saw him there and I was like, "Hey, Brian, how you doing, man? What's going on?" And he was like, "Oh, it's Manson." And I had not put together the whole Marilyn Manson thing, which, you know, I knew that Marilyn Manson was a band, but he wasn't dressed like him at the VMAs, which was weird. So he looked like Brian from
the Edge,
you know, Orlando. And I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm sorry." I go, "I know you're Manson." He's like, it's cool, you know. But that was like, you know, when he was really kind of, I felt like such a dick, but I like, you know, happens,
don't you know, dude? I'm not Brian anymore. I'm Manson.
So maybe that's why when I'm in catering and he's there, it's not cool.
Like, "Hey, Manson, it's Kevin. I'm Brian now, actually. I went back. Things didn't work out the last 10 years. You know, the music's changed a little bit. I started this kind of boy band thing, and that's what I'm doing."
Yeah. Hey, Jimmy, what do you got going on there? What are you doing now?
So now I'm going to, I already kind of like boiled the carrots to soften them up. And now I'm just going to get the mint jelly and just glaze them. So I got it on low to medium heat. And I'm going to just scoop a couple spoonsful of the mint jelly in there and just kind of toss it, heat it up, let it melt a little bit, and kind of deglaze the carrots with it.
You can't have lamb. You can't have lamb without the mint jelly, right? I mean,
you gotta have the mint jelly. So what I'll do also is I'm going to glaze the carrots with it, but I'm also going to I'm going to plate it with the lamb. So I'll do like a dollop of mint jelly on each lamb chop, basically.
That's good.
Jimmy, question for you: have you ever made your own mint jelly?
No, I have not made my own. Yeah, I thought about doing a pesto, a mint pesto. But I just went with the jelly. I like the jelly better. I've had them both, but I prefer the jelly. But I have not made it yet.
I tried to make a mint jelly a couple years ago. I followed every single aspect of the recipe. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It came out, it was terrible. And I was like, that's why they jar this stuff. What brand do you generally go with?
Let me see what we got.
You got through like 5 songs and you still hadn't made the mint jelly. You're like, I'm almost put together another album and I still can't make this damn mint jelly.
It's tough, man. It is an art form. Yeah, that stuff's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I could eat that just out of the jar.
Traditional English right there.
Yeah, even as a kid, man, I did down that mint jelly stuff. You know, also with the lamb, because the lamb cooks pretty quick, right, Jimmy?
Yeah, like 20 minutes maybe. So sear it on the hot side, maybe 3 to 5 minutes each side, and then move it to the cold side for like 20 minutes and let it roast. And then, like I said, I put the apple chips in there also to kind of smoke it a little bit at the same time.
An internal temperature for medium rare is what for lamb?
We're gonna hit 130 for this. That'll be that should be medium.
Like a steak.
Yeah. Yep,
same,
exactly.
Same.
I guess lamb cooks a little different than beef. But so they say like 125 is medium rare for lamb. So 125 to 130 is kind of medium rare, which is I'm gonna take it to 130. and then let it rest, and it should go to 135.
You know,
So we'll let it rest for like 10 minutes after it comes off the grill.
another good thing to do with lamb is encrust it, you know, with that like a Parmesan garlic, and you get almost where it's almost a glue like, where you let it sit overnight and you're just rolling the outside. That's a different type of lamb taste, but you know, it takes a little bit away from the meat, because lamb is a little gamey.
It is.
You know, can be. The rack rarely is gamey, which is why most people will like rack.
Right.
Yeah, you get the loins, you know, the little lamb steaks. Yeah. They get a little gamey. Let Me Down Easy is the new song from Kevin and Candlebox, and it is not far behind. It is not Cover Me. It is not You. It is, you are in Louisiana. You got some gumbo. You got a gator that's about to eat your leg, and you're on a little wood rowboat in the middle of a swamp, and the sun is setting, and you're just trying to get out because you're going to have some Lagastinos. That's exactly what this new song is. That's the vibe, right?
Yeah, I'm sitting there with Robert Johnson. We've just sold our souls, and we're looking to make a dime. Yeah, man. When I kind of asked Peter Cornell, who I wrote the song with, Chris's older brother, when I asked him for something, I told him what I was looking for. I said I wanted something that was down and dirty and swampy and bluesy. I knew he could do it because I'd known Pete for a long time, from, of course, the early days in Seattle. Some of his earlier bands were more on the bluesy side. And I think, you know, I dare say a little bit of Chris's blues influence came from his older brother, Peter, because some of the stuff he was listening to. I knew he was going to give me something good. I didn't know it was going to be this good. And he made it really easy to stay right down in that dirty, muddy, grungy path that I wanted to go. I had these lyrics that, you know, I just written, you know, in my phone, it ain't easy, it's fucking hard in here, which is in my mind. And you know, and I immediately, when I heard it, I said, I'm going to use that, and that is going to be the starting point of this song. And it made it so easy, man, because you know, when you're inspired by a song, lyrics come. It's kind of like, you know, with cooking as well. When you're inspired by something you taste, it makes you want to reproduce that. It makes you want to give it what it deserves. And, you know, I'm so happy he's cooking lamb. I love lamb so much. But the song, you know, the song required that. But, you know, like you're saying, you know, with crawfish or whatever it's going to be down in, you know, some boudin or whatnot in Louisiana, I wanted the song to feel that way. I wanted the song to feel like it was crying for redemption. It needed to spit out or confess its sins, and I did, and that's what, you know, and that's what I tried to do with the songs, you know, and like I said in the, you know, the press release, you know, we're all sinners, ain't a saint among us, and you know, at some point we're going to have to answer for those sins, and hopefully we found some sort of redemption so that when the pearly gates open up, we're allowed in. In my case, I'm fairly certain I'm going straight to hell, so I'll see y'all there. But yeah, that's what the song's about.
No, I think you can redeem yourself, brother, man. I think you're going to be okay. You've done a lot of good in your life. You know, I'm a fan of what you're screaming right now. You know, growing up a forced Catholic, going to Catholic high school, which I didn't mind, to be honest with you. Actually, religion class was my favorite class because it was like history class. But you know, as a Gen Xer, as a rebellious Gen Xer, when you're forced to do something or, you know, believe in something, you just out of spite do the opposite. And I remember the first time I came home and I had a conversation with my mother about this, and I told her, I was like in high school, you know, I was such an asshole, and I go, you don't really literally believe everything in that book, do you? Because if so, you're an idiot. Not the right thing to say. It was, you know, but I believed it, you know, and I still believe it to this day. You know, I think anything you read or see, you have to read between the lines. There's three sides to every story. There's my side, your side, then the truth. because it's all interpretation. And dude,
Yeah.
that was a bad day. That was a bad day.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it went over well. Listen, I think, the argument can be made is there's over 3,000 gods since the beginning of time, right? And I don't know how you decipher which is the correct one. It's okay to have beliefs in whether it's, Jesus Christ. If you're a Catholic, it's the Pope speaking on behalf of God Almighty. There's so many in Buddhism, Taoism, Hebrew, Judaism, Muslim. They're all so interpretable, but they are so strict in their direction. And I find it really difficult to see how somebody can, do something awful in the name of their God when it goes against everything that your God preaches. Even in the studies of Taoism, Muslim, Hindu, Hindi, it still fascinates me that someone can spin that to where it justifies, if it's hatred or pain or suffering that they inflict on someone. I find that so interesting that you can justify that based on what your belief is. Religious studies, I think, are fascinating. Theology is it's amazing to me. I often thought that I was going to study that if I had gone into college, because I did find it, like you, historically, it's fascinating what religion.
And you mix that with how human beings are. I mean, like, spinning things has been around since the beginning of time. And like everything that you're saying is I agree 110%. That's why it drives me nuts when I see the pack mentality that people have. It's like, if you want to buy into hope, which I believe in hope and I believe in faith, but you got to believe in yourself first before you get to those two things. And, just because somebody's telling you to do something, take their advice, but use it, for you. Don't do it because somebody else is telling you to do it. You take bits and pieces. I think, probably not in our lifetime, but at some point in time, we'll all know the truth about everything, and we're going to feel really stupid. I think we're going to just feel like we're in one big alien reality show. It's like everything is scripted out, and we're just they're going to be like, you got jobs. Ha, 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 ha. You're the joke. So,
well, I mean, one of the ways that we got, to, like you're talking, you're doing your cooking show here. Your podcast is amazing. The reason that some of these recipes that we have now, and chefs like Emeril Lagasse or Joan, Julia Childs, whatever, these were artists that took what was given to them and created something entirely different, and it was their inspiration, or like you were saying, this is the truth of the recipe. Their interpretation made it something even better, if you will. And that's, I think the only real, maybe I'm wrong, Jimmy, but there's only one type of cooking where you have to be so specific with that recipe. And that's in the baking world and in French pastry, right? Where you can't deviate from that recipe. That you can, it doesn't mean it's going to be any good. But pastry chefs are magicians, and I think they get paid more than lead chefs at some restaurants in France, because that pastry is the most important thing to that palate.
So what you're really saying is that you got to believe in what you're doing, saying, singing, cooking, whatever the case may be, and you got to stand out. And you're absolutely right. Every person in history that's done something special has done it their way. And they didn't do it out of arrogance. They did it out of belief in what they were doing was right. You go back to 93, right? Let's go back to the first album. I'm sure as new kids coming out and you're saying, hey, we're a rock band, we're doing this thing, blah, blah, blah. You had people in your ear going, hey, you sound a little bit, should be changed. Maybe we should do, and there probably people were trying to tweak you guys back then, but you stuck to your guns, right?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, and of course, there was always somebody chirping something in your ear. But the amazing thing about being from Seattle, and I attribute it and I compare it a lot to the Athens scene in the 80s, as well as the New York punk scene in the 70s. Although somebody was always in their ear, all those bands that came from those towns, even Chicago in the 90s, they did what they wanted to do, and that's why those bands were so special. And Seattle was similar in the sense that no one cared what anybody thought. Nobody cared what the producer in the studio was telling them to do, because they're like, well, you're not in my band, and I'm going to do what I want to do because I don't want to sound like anybody else. And that's why you got those records, why you got those Green River records, the Malfunction records, the Soundgarden records, the Pearl Jam records, the Mother Love Bone records. The list goes on and on. Tad, Melvin's, Blood Circus. I mean, I could talk for hours about the individuality of that city. It's because the city allowed that, and the fans of music allowed the bands to be in that way. And that's why that honesty that's come out of that music to this day is what resonates with people. And yeah, we wanted to stand out. So we were 5 years in age younger than the guys in Alice in Chains and Soundgarden, whatnot. So when you're a 16-year-old kid, you're certainly not playing any of the bars. So you're trying to have a sound that is yours, that people are going to gravitate to. And I remember the first show we played, we'd only been a band for, I think, about 4 weeks. Barty had joined the band, and he brought in You and Far Behind as the two songs that he brought in to try out for the band. And of course, we were like, you're in the band. You're a brilliant bass player. When we played that first song, everybody at that house party stopped talking. And we knew that, and it was You. Yeah. And we knew that we had something. Because people just shut up. And then when you're playing a house party, it's like, there are 50, 60 people in the basement of a house drinking in Seattle because it's raining outside. When they all shut up and listen to you play, you've got something. So yeah, so exactly what you said. We all try to stand out. And so you follow the rules as much as you want, but make it your own. And I tell young bands that all the time, the most important thing that you can do is not sound like Shinedown. Don't sound like Hailstorm. Don't sound like Nirvana. Don't sound like, Korn or whatever. Utilize the influence, but be your own band and find those interesting changes, starts and stops, weird things to happen in the music that make it exciting to you, because you can't have, 12 to 13 songs that are all doing the same thing without a breath or somewhere in the song to go that allows the listener to find something that's theirs,
Yeah. Well, it can't be luck to have your own sound, and I've always said this about you guys in Candlebox, which makes you special. Again, from a fan standpoint, I'm a little biased and we're also friends, but you hear a Candlebox song, that's why this new song, I'm like, it's not Candlebox, but you hear a Candlebox song, it's Candlebox. You hear a Nirvana song, it's Nirvana. You hear a Pearl Jam song, for the most part, until, they could do whatever they wanted to do. And Eddie could, broaden his horizons and do things like Last Kiss and those types of things. But at the beginning, there's a sound that, Soundgarden has a sound. That's not by luck, but it's not on purpose either, right?
No, it's not by design either. It's what's inside each musician you play with. And I think one of the reasons that Candlebox has grown over every single album is that as musicians, Pete, Barty, Scott, and myself, when it came to time to make the Lucy record, we'd grown a little bit. When it came time to make the Happy Pills record, we had Dave Cruzen on drums at that point. It changed our sound because he has a specific style of how he plays. Like when you saw Pearl Jam at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, when Dave Cruzen played live, it sounded like Pearl Jam.
Right.
Even though Matt Cameron plays it beautifully, Dave Cruzen makes that 10 album sound like 10. Right. And when he played with Candlebox, and by the way, he's played on the last 5 Candlebox records. That's why our sound evolved the way it did, is because Dave Cruzen brings that into the band. And then when I included Adam as bass, when Barty left in 2008, Adam has his style. Again, we were allowed to grow because this musician brings in their influence. And then we get, Pete leaves the band, Brian Quinn joins the band. Brian Quinn brings his influence in. So it's, the only real staying point in all of it has been my voice. But I grow with each one of these musicians as well as a singer. So that's why I'm able to do a song like, Let Me Down Easy. I would imagine, just to bring it back to Jimmy as a chef, every single sous chef he's worked with, or every other chef he's ever had an opportunity to, they bring something into what he's trying to do with his cooking as well. So we've all learned from the masters, but it is not by design. It's purely by what's inside you, that and what you take from those that you've worked with, and give that experience to somebody else at some point as well.
Wasn't Shannon with you guys, Shannon Larkin, for a little bit?
Shannon played with us on tour, never made a record with him. And I mean, God, I wish we had. I don't know what it would have ended up sounding like. Amen, I think, with what he did with Casey Chaos. But Shannon's a brilliant drummer. I mean, I loved playing with him. I love what he's done with Godsmack as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that first Godsmack record with, I believe his name was Tony, was pretty solid. But Shannon's just a next level drummer, and just a beautiful human being. I love that kid's soul so much. It's not even funny.
Yeah, he's I'm a Shannon Larkin fan, and it's interesting, I always say, the rock world's so ancestral, and then you go back to like even Ugly Kid Joe, which I was a fan of too,
Mm-hmm.
and I love that sound. I just love that, that sound that it put out. And then he's with Godsmack, and he's playing with a lead singer who's just as good of a drummer with Sully Erna, and when they go back and forth on stage, it's pretty cool. And I know Sully loves him to death too. So, hey, Jimmy Bones, you got that food so we can look at it and wrap up with Kevin here, or did you? By the way, so that's his car, right? So
I know, I love it.
Jimmy's in the military. He's based in Miami. When we met Jimmy, I thought that he was cooking at a retirement center, and it's his apartment complex, and it started at the beginning of the pandemic when we met him, and he would cook food for his neighbors.
That's nice,
because everybody was in the house, so he would start cooking. And I don't know if he was a fan of my radio show when I was in Orlando or what. I forget how we connected, or just the podcast. He'd see it online. He's like, if you guys ever need a chef, I'll cook for you. Now, he's never disappeared like he is now. I don't know where he went, but he'll be back here in a second. Until he is, so the full-length album in which Let Me Down Easy will be on it will be called Wolves. And is all the same similar sound to the track, or is everything all over the place?
No, it's all over the place. It's a record. I've been saying it's bipolar. It doesn't really know what it is. It has these, super highs, super lows, manic middles. It's got there's a ballad on it that's incredibly beautiful that I'm really proud of. But we didn't limit ourselves. Again, we're talking about the musicians that have joined me. If somebody brought something in that we were attracted to, we did not stop ourselves from doing it. We love this, let's move with it. And we did, and we recorded it. And if we felt at the end of the recording process, if it was giving all of us what we needed from it, okay, it's going on the record. And that's what we did. We didn't look for one pattern, one path. I knew I wanted something that was loose, like a Rust Never Sleeps by Neil Young and Crazy Horse. I didn't want the record to be slick and, bottled up with a nice, red bow on it. I wanted it to feel dirty. I wanted it to feel angry and aggressive and loose and pedal to the metal. Let's go down the freeway at 150 miles an hour at some point. And I think that's what we got.
So you'll follow it up with a tour eventually when we get through, when we can tour. I mean, would you go out, let's say next year, 2021, if they said, okay, we're going to do a social, like those social distancing concerts that you see, people in cars or, every 18 feet or something, would you do something like that? Or do you want, how it should be?
No, I want to feel the audience's sweat, and I want them to feel mine. I love that. I love that interaction. I think that's what makes rock and roll amazing, is that live experience where people are just losing their minds and doing what they want to do. I admire the bands that have, the comfort of being able to sit down and play to a socially distanced audience. The drive-in theater thing, I think it's great for for the fan and maybe the musician, but I can't do that. It's not in me. I grew up on punk rock music. My first concert was Black Flag, Dead Kennedys, and Butthole Surfers in San Antonio, Texas, at the age of 12. And that's the vibe that I've always wanted. When I step out on stages, I want to feel like that. I want to feel like that 12-year-old kid. And I can't do that I didn't even like touring in arenas when the audience was 20 feet away. It feels wrong to me. When we did Woodstock 94, 60 feet from the stage was the audience. I was like, this is bullshit, man. I was right down in that. I jumped down there, I went down there, and I had to be down there. I need that,
Have you ever gone to a concert you'd never admit that you went to at one time, maybe? Like, did you sneak into a boy band show or something? Not to say they're bad. Again, I'm an Orlando guy, so I worked at the radio station that launched them too. I'm just saying, you take a rocker, sometimes he might not want to see with an Adele sign in the front row.
Oh, no, first of all, I love Adele. I went to see, I've seen Culture Club.
Yeah.
I've seen the Go-Go's. I've seen the Psychedelic Furs. I've seen Talk Talk. I mean, I've seen shows. I'm not ashamed to admit I've seen them. I mean, I've seen a ton, but it's because I love music. I thought, the first Culture Club record to me was outstanding musicianship. Whether or not Boy George was, dressed up, in a gown or a dress or whatever, I didn't care. I thought the musicianship was amazing. Same thing when I saw Duran Duran. I saw the Cars, which was just brilliant, man. So for me, it's always been about the music, man. I love music. I've loved it since I can remember, opening my eyes is how long I've loved music. And I've seen, crazy fucked up shows and, brilliant train wrecks of shows. And, I love it. I mean, I was at the Guns N' Roses cult tour that came through Seattle, and I think it was 88. And when Axl jumped out in the audience and beat somebody up after he played like 3 songs, and that was it, So I'm fortunate, man. But yeah, I've seen some funny shit, and I love it. I thought that Culture Club show, I'll never forget that. The Go-Go's were amazing. I was in love with Belinda Carlisle. I was like 12 years old,
Tell me about it.
I was like, so yeah, I mean, I've done it.
Oh, dude, Belinda Carlisle, dude. Belinda Carlisle, especially, she goes, "Ooh, baby, heaven on earth." Oh my God, that video. It was funny. Like before Cars got, the MP3 stuff all put in it. I remember taking my car to a Best Buy to get some wire installed so I could hook in my like iPhone 3 so I could listen to like this new technology. And, I had all this music on my phone, and this woman who installed it for me, she goes, "Well, let's test it out." And I said, "Okay, it's great." And neither one of us realized the volume was so high, and, I plugs it in, and it's, "Ooh, baby, do you know what that's worth?" I'll never forget the look on this chick's face. She looks there and goes, "Really?"
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, really.
Have you seen the video? Yeah, really.
Yeah, really. Yeah. And you know what? We're going to fucking listen to it again. The Go-Go's were badasses, man. That documentary that's on right now. And they got I think a doc coming out too. A lot of people don't realize that they were, punk girls, man. They were badasses. They were bringing dude groupies back there. They were ahead of the times, man. They're cool.
Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire. That is the Go-Go's 100%. Those chicks were hardcore, man.
Yeah, that's cool. And they had Turmoil in the band, and, it was the whole nine. I don't think a lot of people realize how much of a band they really were. Jimmy Bones, can you hear us now? I don't know where you went before.
Yeah, I got you.
You came back with some butter. Are you ready to display the Jimmy Bones special of lamb chops with a side that we won't be able to eat, but we can get the recipe on shoottogrillpodcast.com? What do you got?
All right, hold on. Let me shut these mashed potatoes off. So I think we're about ready to play.
I hope you have people to feed there in that apartment complex.
Yeah, I'm going to give some to the neighbors, as always.
That's a lot of food. All right.
Oh, that's a nice knife.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Japanese. Which one?
Del Strong.
Oh, yeah.
He's got We're
Perfect
gonna
for
have to
that
get
lamp.
Jimmy a better grill in the back, something a little more aesthetically pleasing.
Something that looks like that Camaro, man.
I know. Jimmy loves that Camaro, man. That's his pride.
That's a
and
hot
joy.
rod. That's a hot rod.
Jimmy posts pictures all the time, and there's not one without the Camaro somewhere. Oh, look at that.
Oh, look at this pig. It's perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely perfect. You know, Jimmy, if that, and you've got what, two or three on there, that aren't cut.
Yeah.
I would take that entire thing like a tomahawk and just bite it. That is perfectly cooked, brother. Perfectly
Yeah.
cooked.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to get this recipe. That looks like I'm gonna try that. My wife would be in love with this one.
Well, when you're in Miami, Jimmy would probably love to cook for you.
Oh yeah, come on down.
If you're in Atlanta, I will cook for you. Not as well as Jimmy, but I'll have Jimmy ship it to me, and I will feed it to you.
You played it.
I'll play
Jimmy,
it.
did you do New Zealand lamb or Australian lamb, or is it
This
American?
is Australian.
Yeah, look at that. And it was really quick. It was a quick cook, right?
Yeah, it's a super quick cook. So it went to about 130, 135, and I pulled it and let it rest.
Yeah.
And just look at that beautiful sear on the fat. I mean, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stunning.
It's great.
That fat rendered down really well. That's going to be a good bite right there.
So every time
Yeah.
we have artists on the podcast, Jimmy's quietly, passive aggressively auditioning for a road chef. So if Candlebox needs a road chef, Jimmy Bones would be the guy.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know.
Dude, if I ever get as big as we were in the 90s, if Candlebox ever has that lightning in a bottle again, I'd take you on the road in a heartbeat. Jimmy.
Hell
We'll
yeah.
We'll get them sponsored by somebody. So every time you're on stage, you'll say, Jimmy Bones, sponsored by Fender or whoever.
Exactly. Sponsored by Chevrolet Camaro.
Chevrolet,
Sponsored
yeah.
by-
Y'all
Look at
drive
that
the
beautiful,
cars.
just a beautiful medium.
God, look
That is
at that.
perfect.
That's great. That's fantastic. We'll have pictures, the recipe again for those listening, shoottogrillpodcast.com. Kevin, Candlebox, again, new song entitled Let Me Down Easy. It's available now, Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify. Keep an eye out for Wolves, the new album, the tour, When We All Survived the Virus. I love you to death personally. I think the world of you. I think you're just such a great human being and just as good of an artist. So thanks so much for doing this for us. It was really cool spending this much time with us. Thank you.
Oh, Jason, my pleasure, man. Dude, I appreciate you beyond words. And, it was nice to chat with you a couple of years ago when Chris passed and, to kind of go over all that sort of stuff. You're a hell of a human, man. And best of luck with this podcast and everything. This is a lot of fun. I mean, look at this guy dishing this up. This is unbelievable. I'm so hungry now.
It's better, like I said before the thing when we all get together, obviously we couldn't have done it either way, but when you make your way to Atlanta or, we get Jimmy Bones up here, we'll do something,
Yeah.
Hopefully the podcast gets to a point where I can put on my own show, bring in some of my favorite artists like you guys and have like a Jimmy Bones cook for everybody.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
That's the big dream, the down the road dream. But until then, we do it via Zoom. All right, Kevin, brother, man, good luck with the song and the new album when it comes out. Talk to you soon. Anytime you need me, just let me know. All right.
Thanks, Jason. Jimmy, it's good chatting with you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Not the fanciest plate, but
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. Not the fanciest
Beautiful.
plate, paper plate with all the goods on it. All right, guys, take care. Thanks again.
We'll see y'all.
All right, we'll see you. Bye-bye.